Okay, hello everybody. Thanks for joining us. I think we'll get right into the presentation. Looks like we have a number of people signed up. We want to thank everybody for attending this webinar. We'll also be holding the same grant webinar, I'm sure slightly different, tomorrow. What we wanted to do today is go through some 2015-2016 LGRMIF last minute tip and tricks. Now, as far as we know, the application hasn't been put on the grant website. Just meeting with a municipality today, and she said she logged in and it still was not announced. So we'll see how last minute it is, but I guess we're still expecting it to be a deadline in first, second, third week of March at this point. So we'll get going. And feel free to type in your questions anytime. We'll certainly ask or answer those at the end. And of course, we'll be following up after the webinar is complete. Okay, so who am I and who's Beals? I'm Sal Alfano, area manager with Beals. Beals has been in business since 1939. I've been with Beals for about 10 years now. I do specialize in these LGRMIF grants. I work with several municipalities, school districts, fire districts, police departments. So I have a lot of different resources to gather from, and hopefully can answer some questions as far as what you should or could do with some of your projects. I have over 20 years of industry experience, and we've done over 100 projects. Here's a few examples. The town of Hamburg, the Orchard Park School District just got awarded last year. They had a pretty hefty award, which is great for them, and we're implementing that as we speak. City of Lockport. So we work, Beals is headquarters in West Seneca, Western New York, but we work throughout the state with many different municipalities, BOCES, all different school districts. So again, a lot of resources to work with. Okay, so some major changes. Now, we have been attending the grant workshops, and I'll stop there. If anybody is serious about going for this grant, make sure you contact Gail Fisher. This area is representative for State Archives, and try to attend one of her workshops. Not all of them are always listed on their website. She does run some, so contact Gail. And if you can't get to a workshop, or if there are none in your area, she's more than willing to come out and make site visits. So that's a tip not listed on these slides. But if you're not aware, an archives representative, specifically Gail Fisher, will come out and do a walkthrough with you, discuss what your projects could be. So some other major changes that we saw when attending these workshops. There's some new demonstration grants available. These are those bigger grants that were, I believe, new last year, but now they're starting to include wider scope projects such as electronic records policies and behaviors, or best practices for born digital records. So these demonstration grants are really focusing on managing electronic data. So Gail would call grants classic being what you typically would assume. You're a municipality, you're trying to get boxes of records scanned and into a document management system. Systems that and projects that we've done historically. That's what she calls classic. These newer grants are really going after how are you managing electronic content. Do you already have an electronic EDMS, ECMS in place? How are you managing things that are born digitally? How are you managing email? Those kinds of things. Again, so if you're looking to do a bigger demonstration grant like this, Gail's a wonderful source to contact, and of course we can help you with that because we are experts in electronic management systems. This is more for your behind-the-scenes things when you're going for this grant, but the FS20 form replaced the FS10 budget form, something you should be aware of as you're going through that site. Different form names. someone that we'll hit this on another slide, someone that we work with, and we are a preferred source through NYSID. But when you are doing conversion services specifically, you need to contact NYSID, New York Industries for the Disabled, when seeking quotes, because we would run our quotes for conversion services and the project through our rep at NYSID, and then they would send it out on our behalf. Okay, so the MWBE policy, applicants requesting over 25,000 must comply with that. That's minority and women, business, enterprise, or so this is something that you need to be aware of. It was really emphasized starting last year, but now it's known and everybody should know to comply with this. You need to submit the waiver request when you're doing your application or your grant writer is doing the application. However, you can not submit it when you do your application, and you have 30 days after your award of the grant to submit the paperwork. But that it is an important part now. If you're seeking over 25,000, you need to comply with that. Another thing you'll learn at the workshop is, however, that a preferred source, such as Beals is a corporate partner with NYSID, a preferred source, does trump any MWBE requirements, meaning you're just going to request a full waiver. But again, you still have to fill out and send that form. Here's some things that are now eligible: volunteer fire companies, ambulance services, emergency rescue teams, our team. So again, it's not just towns, but it's school districts, it's fire districts. So there's different places that are eligible for these grants, universities. So there's many different ways to get into this grant. And what I like to say is, make sure as this money still exists, it's still a viable option to do projects. While it's there, you might as well go after $75,000 to complete a project for your entity. There's also the other options of doing shared services, which isn't as complicated as a demonstration grant, that you can get up to, I believe it's 150,000, or 150 or 125,000, but it's a way to get a little bit more money, but again, you're doing it with another entity. The standard data capture form, this needs to be completed if you change the CAO, some behind the scenes paperwork there. There's an updated MWBE worksheet. This does factor in as a preferred source vendor. Again, this is something that does need to be filled out. Even if you're working with a preferred source such as Beals, that does trump the MWBE requirement, but you need to send in a full waiver request. So something else that came out at the workshops, applications will be reviewed differently now. They're by project category. So individual, shared services, and demonstration. They're not put into different segments of as they used to be, but now they're just put into these larger groups. So if you're doing a classic grant or individual grant, if you're in shared services or demonstration. So I guess keep that in mind as you're determining what type or what segment of the grant you're doing. Okay, so the point scoring system, intended results section now worth up to 20 points. Statement of the problem section now worth up to 15 points. Something that you'll get out of the workshops with Gail, and she says your goal should always to get 100% or 5 out of 5 in every section of the grant that you're filling out. So it's important to concentrate obviously on the ones that are worth the most points, like 20 points. You're getting 35 points in this category, but even in a section where it's only worth 5 points, your goal should still to get the maximum amount. So pay attention to each section of that grant. Fill it out exactly with what the grant writers or reviewers are looking for, and try to do 100% in each category, because if there's a cutoff point of 68, where 68 and above are being given the grants and money's running out, you want to make sure you're as high up as possible, not right in that in between area of, if you have 67, well, you missed the cutoff. So the goal here is to get as many points as possible out of each and every section, and concentrate on the ones that are worth more sections, of course, or more points, of course. So funding levels, shared services, again, that's shared service, I believe, is a point of emphasis this year. Again, that's up to 1 million. New York City has their own separate amount of 1 million. It doesn't affect what everybody else gets. That comes out of the New York City funds. Disaster recovery grants, 150,000. Demonstration grants up to 1.5 million, and individual grants, remaining funds available, about, we're guessing, 2 million. So there is still a tremendous amount of money out there, and the point is to go for it, write the best grant as possible, and try to get in on at least the minimum of the classic grant. If not, try to find someone that's worthwhile doing a shared services grant, which is a slightly higher priority. So how can Beals help? Let me check to see if there's any questions yet. So one area is document imaging hardware. Classic things like dedicated document scanners, more up-to-date microfilm reader scanners. These are the kind that will hook up right to a PC, replacing that old technology. And the bonus is that you can create digital images and get those into an enterprise content management system much more efficiently. There's also wide format scanners, printers that can be used in building departments, engineering departments. These are on state contract as well, another bonus. But these are all ways to start creating digital records, because that is or will be the emphasis of these grants going forward, is managing electronic content. But of course, you need to start creating electronic content and showing an SOP or standard operating procedure of how you're doing that day to day. The imaging hardware, it's one way to help you start that. Again, the classic activity is conversion services. So if it's a municipality or a school district, these should be some familiar categories. But we do a lot of these document types throughout the years. Building permits, maps, plans, and drawings, don't forget those. Those are typically seem to be some of the more delicate and old and fading documents. We can scan all those on our wide format or scanners in-house, get those digital, and so you can still preserve those, but when you're day-to-day use, you can use them digitally now. So keep those in mind as you're looking for a project. Board minutes is very popular. There's some very old books out there that we can put on a specialty book cradle scanner. This keeps the classic historical book intact. We don't have to cut the bindings or anything, but we can create digital images and a microfilm backup at the same time. So again, you can preserve these historical books, put them in a proper storage environment, and day to day, you can use it digitally. The other bonus is we can make this all full text searchable. So meaning we can scan that whole page, and you can look for every reference of fire hydrant in the 1975 board minutes. So another popular project. Federal records, state records, municipal records. Vital statistics, it seems to be one of the basic starting points with town clerks. We can do death, birth, marriages, all the classic ones. These seem to be some of the older records that really get a lot of benefit from being converted into a digital environment where you can use it day to day and go and start adding forward. Your personnel records and some other areas can be student records, special ed records, and in the past grant cycle, Orchard Park and Cheektowaga school districts both were awarded fairly large grants, and we're working with those two municipalities. And these are the areas where you typically start: student records, special ed, and payroll. So again, many areas you can focus on. If you're looking for ideas, not only can you have Gail come in, but our area managers will come in. We can do a tour and a survey of your records and try to pinpoint maybe where is the best starting point, what are considered permanent, what have the biggest retention cycle. We can try to find what could be the most delicate or old and fading records and give you an idea of, where's a good place to start. But that's a service that we offer. No charge for an area manager to come in and just survey your records. Okay, I do have a question from Maria. How do you contact a NYSED? We can distribute some information for our rep, and I'll make sure that we have all the contact information, which I believe we do, Tori, emails of everybody that's registered today. So we can send out an email follow-up on who to contact at NYSED, and we'll probably do that within a day, I would assume. So the other part of this is not only the state archives want you to convert digital records and preserve them and start using them day to day, but you really need to have a proper storage environment for them. This would be the records management software, or some different verbiage would be an EDMS, an ECMS, or document management system. But it's a proper storage environment that houses these electronic records that should be properly indexed. Indexes being last name, first name, social security numbers, date of birth, those kind of key values that help you go find this digital folder. But the big aspect of these record management software is everything is under an audit policy. Everything has its own security. So it's in a proper environment to securely access records, but also make it much more easier and user-friendly going forward, because now you'll have the ability to call up a folder by a variety of means, a combination of name and a year range, the full text that we mentioned, so you can find every hit of a person's date of birth, that sort of an idea. So it's important that not only are you saying, I want to scan all these records and get digital images, they're not looking for you to just scan them and put them on a DVD somewhere. They want you to house it into a proper environment, something that you can sustain and use in the future, because typically, they're looking for some sort of contribution on your end of what you're going to do in the future to maintain the system. And these are some of the popular software that we have available: FileBound and a product application extender from EMC. Some of the bigger names in ECMS or EDMS industry. Again, what we can do as Beals area managers, we can come in and just show you a brief example of what these look like, try to get you familiar with the system, give you a better idea of, okay, if we want to target payroll records, what is the key value? Is it pay period, end period? If we're looking at marriage statistics, is it party one, party two? Those are key components to figure out, not only on the front end of scanning and converting your records, but how are you going to find them later? Very important. Another question, do we have any idea when the deadline will be? As I mentioned in the beginning, I just talked to a municipality that said they reached out, I believe today or the day before, to Gal and was not aware of the application being out. Again, they're just saying it should be out shortly. We're still assuming at this point it should be out anytime, and the deadline is going to be sometime in March. But I haven't heard yet, and municipalities haven't heard yet. But after this webinar, I will probably try to reach out to Gal and see if she has any idea as well. And if I find out anything, we'll let everybody know that we have contact information for it. Okay, so Beals and NYSED, we work with NYSID, who is the preferred source. We're a corporate partner for NYSID. It stands for New York State Individuals with Disabilities. The benefit, of course, it creates employment opportunities for New Yorkers with disabilities. So it has a value in many ways, not only to make the process of getting a grant and completing this work easier, but it has a good value for New York State itself. What it does in this arena for us, it meets purchasing needs of government agencies. It makes this process easier because it avoids the time-consuming bidding process. You don't need to have anything go out to RFP when it deals with conversion services, because when you're working with a preferred source, you can use a single quote and submit that along with the waiver request and use that for the grant application, as long as you're working with a preferred source that Beals is. So that means, 3 quotes is no longer required for this conversion element of the grant, because you would be working with a preferred source. The biggest value is it saves you a lot of time. Right from the beginning, we can come in, pinpoint the records, come up with the pricing, come up with the indexing, and you can use one quote. You don't have to spend. The grant application is time consuming enough. We alleviate some of that time consumption by being part of this program. So the net result, it gives you one quote that you can easily submit with your application process. And we've been very successful with these quotes in the past few years. Many that we've been the preferred source on have received some pretty major awards over the last few years. So let's see if we have any more questions, and we'll wrap up. We're pretty much at where we want to be on time. And again, we'll also hold another session tomorrow. Maybe by tomorrow we'll have a deadline. We don't know. If we do, that we'll have even more to talk about. Because once that deadline is out, you don't have any extra time. We need to come in and do that survey, come up with the records that need to be converted, and get a quote prepared. If there's no more questions, I want to mention a couple things. Speaking of NYSID, they're celebrating their 40th anniversary. In so doing, they're hitting social media and sending out press releases and newsletters, and we're being mentioned as a premier partner because we've done, as I mentioned, we've done several successful projects in the past with them. So it's a great relationship. They've been around for 40 years. We've been around since 1939. So it's a great partnership, and it makes your life easier in getting funds for this grant and outside of the grant. It doesn't have to be only for a grant when you're working for a preferred source. Keep that in mind as well. So it's a big year for NYSID, and we're glad we're a part of it, and that we can be one of their premier partners, and they're talking about us. As a follow-up to this webinar, as we mentioned, we'll get you contact information for NYSID. Our marketing department has put together a grants ebook. So as part of our follow-up, we'll send out or send links to a grant ebook. It's a quick way to get some valuable information on the grant process. Ebooks are a new way to do things other than going through a long white paper. So that'll be part of our follow-up. Hopefully you get some good information out of that. We'll give you the contact for NYSID, and let us know either by email or give us a call if you want us to come out and do that survey of your records. A big part of it, because that'll help us get that quote that you can submit for your application. That should be coming up anytime now. So I don't see any other questions. If you do have questions after the webinar, feel free to contact us, and we'll answer those one at a time. Depending on how specific the question is or it's general, we'll send that response to everybody. But please send us questions, and please contact us if you'd like us to come out and set up that survey. I thank everybody for their time, and if anybody would like to come back tomorrow, maybe we'll have the application deadline as a new feature. So So thanks again. Have a good day.
All right.